All right, so we're going to check out this quadratic. It is not one that factors nicely. It is not set up where we can use square roots. So we're going to try this method called completing the square. Here are the steps for it, and I'll just kind of walk you through step by step. The first thing we want to do is move constant c to the other side of the equation. So the constant is the plus 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Just scoot it over there. So that gives us x squared minus 2x equals negative 3. Okay, if there is an a term, if there's a number out here in front, you need to factor it out. Fortunately, there is not on this one. We'll see one like that in a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this middle term, b, we're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. Okay, so negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 squared is 1. So we're going to add 1 right here. Now, we can't just add 1 wherever we feel like it. We have to balance it. So the way we're going to balance it is we're going to add 1 on this side, and we're going to add 1 on this side. Okay, it has to be balanced. Okay, now that we've done that, we are going to factor the left side of the equation here. So that factors into an x, and we're looking for numbers that multiply to positive 1 and add up to negative 2. So it's going to be x minus 1 and x minus 1, or x minus 1 squared. It is always going to be a perfect square. We designed it that way. It will always be that. And also, this negative 1, it's always that number before you squared it. Okay, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. That's always going to happen as well. Okay, the other side of the equation, negative 3 plus 1, that's just going to be negative 2. And now we can solve by taking the square root. We take the square root of both sides. So that gives us x minus 1. We introduce the square root, so we need plus or minus. We can't take the square root of negative 2, but remember that's the square root of 2 and the square root of negative 1. So this is going to be I root 2. And then our last step, we're going to add 1 to both sides. So our answer is 1 plus or minus I root 2. Okay, and that is completing the square. We are going to do a ton of these examples. Okay. So let's flip over to the next page. I actually want to start with, we'll just start with A. We'll just go in order, it's fine. All right, so we're going to follow those steps through. The first step is we are going to move the 8 over to the other side. Move the constant. We have x squared plus 4x equals negative 8. If there's a number out in front, we got to factor it out, but there's not, so that's good news. We're going to take this number, 4, divide it by 2, and square it. So that's going to be 4. That's what we're adding here. Now, we have to balance that. We are going to balance that by adding 4 to the other side. Okay, now we're going to factor this left side. It is always going to be a perfect square. That's the way this is designed. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to 4. Of course, it is 2. Remember, it's always this number here, 4 divided by 2 before you squared it. That's always what's going to go in here. And the other side is negative 4. Now that we've gotten it to this point, we can take the square root of both sides. So we get x plus 2 equals plus or minus. The square root of negative 4 is 2i. And our last step is going to be to subtract 2 from both sides. Let me write the answer over here. So our final answer is negative 2 plus or minus 2i. So we have 2 solutions, and they both happen to be complex numbers. All right, let's check out B. We're going to start this the same way. We're going to move our constant term to the other side, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. There's already something over there, which is not a huge deal. That's just going to be a negative 17 now when I added 5. If there's something out front, we have to factor it, but there's not. So we're going to take a -8 divided by 2 and square it. That's going to give us a -4 squared, so 16. That's what we're adding here, plus 16. And we have to balance that. So we're going to have to add 16 to the other side. All right, now we're going to factor this side of the equation. It is always going to factor into a perfect square. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to 16 and add up to -8, which of course is -4 and -4. Again, remember it's always that number before you squared it. On the right-hand side of the equation, we just have -1. So now we'll take the square root of both sides. We get x minus 4 equals plus or minus, and the square root of -1 is just I. And our last step, we're going to add 4 to both sides. So our answer is x equals 4 plus or minus I. All right, we'll tackle the next two in the next video.